Today on Finding Freedom, sports betting is exploding, but so is childish outrage that comes with it. Today, how gambling is turning adults into emotional toddlers. And this isn't about one loud personality in this saga, Dave Portnoy. We're going to talk about a window into a much bigger problem. Hey, welcome back to Finding Freedom here on the Lions of Liberty Podcast Network. Great to have you with me today. And today's show, we're going to be talking about sports gambling. I'm going to be talking about a recent controversial video released by Dave Portnoy after a bad beat that he had. And you might ask yourself, Finding Freedom, why are you talking about sports betting? I thought this show was about entrepreneurship, business, politics. Well, I think sports betting has kind of found its way into all of that. It's embedded into the culture of this country and really the world today. So before we get into talking about that, we got to talk about Fox and Sons coffee and how you can get 15% off an order of $40 or more. You can do this by going to Fox and Sons. That's Foxs. That's wrong. It's just the right one. That's FOXNSONS.com. And like I said, you get delicious coffee, which I drink every day. I drink a cup every single morning, brewed in my French press, enjoying an Ethiopian bean right now that is fantastic. And, of course, Fox & Sons, owned by Stephen Fox, friend of the show, fellow entrepreneur, fellow lover of all things freedom. Go check it out and get $40 off by using promo code JOHN. That is JOHN. Also, the Lions of Liberty Pride. If you want more content, some bonus content, come over and join us, the Lions of Liberty Pride, on Patreon or Locals. Just search Lions of Liberty. And guess what? I'm slipping here. It's not the Pride anymore. It is the Poliprix. So become a Poliprick with us. That's of course, a spinoff of our new show, Politics. And we've renamed our patron group the Poliprix. So come and join us there and join in on the fun. Okay. So today's show. If you are on X, you probably saw an outburst from Dave Portnoy last night, talking about a bad beat that he had in the Oakland Raiders versus Denver Broncos game. Essentially, and I'll play the clip from Portnoy, but essentially what happened was end of the game, Broncos are up by 10 points. There's, seconds left in the game. And the spread in the game was I believe 8 points, and Portnoy had the Broncos +8. And what ends up happening is the Raiders able to go down the field, have a catch that puts them into field goal range, and then the referees come in and call a penalty on the Broncos for holding down the offensive player because time was getting very low on the game clock. And when that happens, you have to let the offensive player get back up so they can get, excuse me, so they can get back into formation. Let me get a drink of water. So they can get back into formation and get another playoff. So they call the penalty, which stops the clock because the Raiders had no more timeouts. And at that point, that's when Raiders coach Pete Carroll kicks a field goal. And that blows up the spread and blows up Dave Portnoy's spot. So just to set the stage here, generally I used to like Dave Portnoy. During the whole COVID thing, he provided entertainment, doing his pizza reviews. He shifted from going to the pizza shops to doing reviews on frozen pizzas. That was enjoyable. But more so during COVID, he understood what was happening, how the government was allowing mega companies like Walmart and McDonald's and all of these places to stay open and operate, and small businesses were being crushed. So he was able to, through some philanthropic means, was able to help a lot of small businesses. I think giving his own money as well during this time to stay in business. So I had a lot of respect for Dave Portnoy for that. And over the years since then, that respect has dwindled. And I've come to realize, and I'll get into this a lot more, I think that we have a serious gambling problem in this country, and I'm worried what it's going to, not only how it's going to impact adults, but how it's going to impact kids, young people growing up in this environment where sports betting has become so normalized. Before I go any further, let me just say, I'm not advocating for the state to step in and ban anything. I'm simply talking about the impact of people like Dave Portnoy and others in this space who are using the free market to promote something that's incredibly damaging, I believe. Now, I'm not fully against all forms of sports betting. Of course, if you know me, if you know the show Lions of Liberty, we've had a segment on our bonus program called Degenerate Gamblers, which is mostly a fun show where myself, Brian, and Rico talk about Penn State football. We tell funny stories, and we would talk about some bets for the week. Really, honestly, I don't bet much at all. We were talking about using a pick'em league on Yahoo in order to pick games. When I bet $5. I don't bet much money, but it can be fun. I think into that light. But what happened with Dave Portnoy last night, I think this overstepped the bounds, and we'll get into how this, I think, impacts society. So let me bring this video up to share. And like I said, Dave Portnoy, he's not all bad, but I think what's happening here is extremely, extremely troubling. So let me share the video. We'll bring it up on the screen, expand this out, and here's Dave Portnoy after his bad beat.
That's the worst beat of all time. And you have to investigate the Raiders. Investigate the Raiders. What are they doing? What the fuck? That's the worst beat of all time. That is cheating. What the fuck? I gotta rewind this. That's the worst fucking beat of all time. This is the worst beat of all time. Pete Carroll should be in fucking prison. Prison for Pete Carroll. First of all, the refs, everybody. This is prison. This is prison. There's 16 seconds left in the game. By the way, the play before this, there was fucking 20 seconds. They threw it. Prison. The spread's 8.5. You want to make sure you get that right spot. They spiked the ball, by the way. They ran up and spiked it as a tempo. Prison Pete Carroll. Murder Pete Carroll. I want Pete Carroll murdered. Can you see this play right here?
Okay, so prison for Pete Carroll. Murder Pete Carroll. So I still have this playing in my headphones. This is ridiculous. And I think what set me off about this and why I want to talk about it is you look at this guy, you look at Dave Portnoy, a grown man, 48 years old, who is seemingly looks like he's by himself in his living room, losing his mind, literally completely out of his mind. Now I understand, Barstool Sports. There's a long history with sports gambling associated with Barstool Sports. So in a way, he's working while doing this. He's promoting his brand. This is who he's become. But that's, in a way, that is what is so dangerous about it, is this type of reaction, this type of personality. It's not just Portnoy; it's the whole group of the Barstool podcasters and content creators. That this is who they are, and this is what they promote. This is what they market, and it's just they're children. They are grown men who are children, and Portnoy. He's been married before, divorced his wife, doesn't have any children, promiscuous, sleeping around, 48-year-old man. You see what's happening here. This type of behavior is ridiculous coming out of a 40-year-old man. What happens if you get married and you maintain a marriage, don't get divorced, and you have children, you grow up, the children grow up, make you grow up, and you realize, you know what? Maybe I shouldn't be putting videos out calling for the murder of NFL head coaches, for the imprisonment of NFL head coaches and officials. Maybe my children will see that and will be a little ashamed. Maybe that's not the legacy I want to leave behind for my family. So part and parcel, I think that's kind of what set me off to this, is just seeing that behavior and thinking, oh my God, this is what is being promoted to the youth of America who idolize Dave Portnoy, who think he's cool, who think he's awesome, want to be like him. They want to bet. They want to get upset. They want to be irrational. No, you don't want to do that. That is not the way to a happy, peaceful life, prosperous life. It's not. Sure, Dave Portnoy has made hundreds of millions of dollars. But that's not, you're not going to do that this way. All you're going to do is make yourself look stupid if you're reacting this way, if you're acting this way around your family, in front of your kids. No, this is not a way to act. I mean, this reminds me of the videos you see, and this is the same illness, the same sickness. People just getting so freaking upset when their team loses, throwing bricks through their television, throwing TVs out windows. It's you see it all the time. Anytime there's a big loss, it happens. And I mean, I'll be accountable myself. In the past, I've gotten too upset with the outcome of sporting events, but as I've grown older, and you kind of like when you react that way, and you see your kid look at you like, Dad, it's a game. So, children kind of have a way of being a mirror back on ourselves, and they change you, which I think is a valuable thing. And I get more into this. So let's get into. I want to get into the growth of sports gambling. Otherwise, this show is just gonna be one long rant that's not going to make any sense. So, just so you understand where gambling has how much it's grown in this country, and sports betting especially, just in the past few years. So sports betting revenue in 2024 was $13.7 billion, which was up from $11 billion in 2023. That's a 24% increase. Gross gaming revenue in 2018 was $400 million. In 2023, $10.9 billion. Guys, that is a 5-year period. That is an absolute explosion for an industry. And Americans wagered $120 billion legally in 2023. Of course, I think most of the gambling done today is legal because it's just so easy to do it. In most states, gambling, sports betting is legalized. There's an app on your phone. You can go on and place an easy bet. And I'll just reiterate again, I don't think that, that in itself is the problem. And I don't want the federal government to intervene and make things illegal. I just am raising a red flag saying, we got a serious problem. Let's start talking about it. And let's figure out how we can influence, how we can change it. I don't think the way to change it is by force. I think the way to change it is in the household, is with parents, is with people starting to take accountability. So that's why I'm doing this show. I'm not doing this show because I think there should be any sort of ban on gambling. I don't think that solves anything. I think in many ways it could exacerbate the problem. 38 states have legalized sports betting of some kind. And the effect this has had on behavior, especially younger audiences. I don't know what's going on with my voice right now. That's weird. I'm not sick or anything. Just all of a sudden, I have a frog in my throat, losing my voice. Where did that turn of phrase come from? Frog in my throat. I guess the croaking of the frog. I never thought that through. So that's where that comes from. Okay. Have a frog in my throat. Let me get a drink of water. So what I've seen happen personally is sports betting. It's not only adults that are doing it. It's not only people who understand, cause and effect, who have a fully developed brain. A lot of the male brain doesn't fully develop until you're 25 or later. Female brain develops a little faster. People are able to sports bet. When you're 18 years old, people can gamble when they're 18 years old in many states, and it's not just limited to people who are over the age of 18. I've seen many times where adults are bringing their children into the bets, and I think what this comes back to is fantasy football in this country, because we've normalized this. In fantasy football, you can call it gambling or not. A lot of fantasy football leagues, of course, the ones that I'm in, you have money involved. I'm not here to demonize fantasy football. I'm just kind of breaking down, I think, what's happened with sports in this country and the human relationship with the fan relationship with their sports team. And I think what's happened is we're seeing a moving away from a fan of a team where guys watch games, dads watch games with their kids. Of course, women like, sports too. So sorry to discount that, but I think it's more common for, dads to be watching games with their kids. And dads, I think, over time started out with fantasy football. Oh, I need this player to do that, this player to do this. And now it's kind of leaked over to talking about their bets with their kids. Oh, we need the Bears to win by 8.5 points, or the Broncos to win by 8.5 points. That was the spread that Dave Portnoy was getting all riled up about. So that's embedded early. Talk about a 5-year-old kid is seeing, oh, my dad is happy when a team wins by a certain amount of points. He's real mad when the team loses by a certain amount of points. And that's kind of ingrained in them. So it's not only like when I was growing up, sure, maybe, and really my dad didn't get upset either way if the Steelers lost or whatever. Not that I remember, at least, but seeing how other people react to it growing up, you kind of understand, okay, as you're growing up in Pittsburgh, I'm a Steelers fan. People are upset when they lose, they're happy when they win, and you grow up in that environment. And sure, there's negatives to that. We can talk about those on another show. I think there's also positives to it. Brings communities together. It's not all bad. I'm not here to shit on sports. I think sports are great. I think they're important. I think people watching sports is great. Attending sporting events is great. It's awesome. I think there is a problem, though, with sports betting being introduced to young people at a young age and seeing that and being raised in it, and we haven't seen the full impacts of it yet. Like I talked about, this explosive growth over the past 5 years, and the danger is you have a young generation coming up that they were exposed to that, watching football with their dad, and their dad making bets, and now they're being influenced by people like Portnoy. And this is where things are going to get really, really probably bad when it comes to results and behaviors. And the gambling is totally frictionless. So self-regulation, sure. As an adult, as a dad, you might be able to self-regulate your betting. You might be able to, just bet $5, $10, and not maybe you have a ceiling where you're only going to lose a certain amount of money. Then you're going to stop. Maybe you can handle that. Maybe you can self-regulate. Most people can. A percentage of people can't, and they have addictive personalities, and it's a problem in their life. But being introduced at a young age, young people can't regulate that. I mean, when I was 18, 20 years old, God, if I could gamble on stuff with the little tiny amount of money I had, it's scary. It's scary what would have happened, honestly. Now, like I said, I'm not saying that we should make that illegal, but parents should be more cognizant of what they're teaching their children, teaching them the thought. If you're going to bet with your children, you got to go through the whole thought process. If you're going to bring them in and emotionally bind them to an outcome, you've got to have them understand, listen, I'm setting limits here. I'm being responsible with this. And there's only certain amounts of money that I bet. If I lose this bet, you know what? I'm not going to bet again for 2 months. You got to bring them into the whole picture of it. Because if you're just teaching them the highs and the lows, the emotional triggers, there's no help there. That's only detrimental. And when it comes to the media, so you have the influence, like, of course, Barstool Sports, and you have a lot of content creators. I'm not going to go through them all, and podcasts out there around fantasy football, around sports betting. Of course, a lot of interest around that. So the market's going to support the interest. I'm not going to get mad at the market. It is what it is. But when you have ESPN, an interesting relationship between Dave Portnoy and ESPN. So Dave Portnoy sold Barstool Sports to Penn Entertainment. I don't know the exact timeline, sometime 2020 in there, I think. And then he sold it in chunks over time. It was like a 2 or 3 year period. And Penn Entertainment, which is a betting company, owned all of Barstool Sports. All of the Barstool betting advertisement was Penn Entertainment. But then things soured between Penn and Barstool. Maybe they weren't, making the money they desired. And Penn sold Barstool back to Portnoy for $1, which is ridiculous. He got hundreds of millions of dollars selling it to Penn Entertainment and got it back for $1. Could be something underneath there. I don't know. I don't want to say anything if there's anything nefarious going on, but that should probably be investigated. Hopefully somebody's looking into that. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe it's probably all in the up and up. It's probably nothing there. But so when Penn sold Barstool back for $1, they went into an agreement with ESPN to be ESPN's betting provider. And this happened for a few years. I think it was actually the beginning of this month when that agreement ended. This is December 2025. And ESPN is now with DraftKings, I believe. They shut down ESPN Bet, and now they're with DraftKings as their sports book. I have no idea what Penn Entertainment is doing now or what their affiliations are. The bottom line is, over the years, ESPN's alignment with sports betting has grown and grown and grown. When I was a kid growing up watching sports, we watched sports. We watched the game. They talked about the players. You're watching baseball. They're talking about their batting average, RBIs, runners in scoring position, things like that, things that matter to the game. Now you watch a baseball game and you have a thing pop up in the corner, brought to you by DraftKings or BetMGM or whatever. So-and-so has a, plus 300 chance of getting hit here, whatever it is. Probably messed that up. And I've had my daughter ask me, what does that mean? What's that number in the corner? I'm like, that's for sports betting. People who want to bet on this one at bat and the outcome of the at bat. She's like, what are you talking about? So I need to, on me, I'm telling parents to teach their kids. I need to teach her what is actually happening so she understands it. She's 10 years old now. She understands math pretty well. So I think she's at the point that she can understand what I'm talking about and the dangers of it. So that's on parents. If you're listening to this and you're a parent, that's on you to teach your children about the dangers here, because we can't avoid it now. We can't avoid it. You have personalities like Portnoy who are making this type of behavior. They're normalizing it. They're promoting it. They're saying this is how you should act as a sports fan or someone who loves sports. It's okay to scream and yell and curse. on your Twitter account. That's just being a passionate fan today. That's what it's turned into, which is kind of crazy. So younger audiences, when I was a kid, I saw sports as sports. I wanted to watch Sports Center. I wanted to see highlights. The younger audiences, I think more and more, they're seeing sports as betting. They're seeing betting as the fun part of sports. When I saw watching sports as the fun part of sports. So it's just another layer on top, another layer of risk added in, another dopamine hit added in to make things a little bit more spicy, right? To make things a little bit more emotional, because I guess people don't have enough problems in their life, enough things weighing on them. They need to add more uncertainty, and apparently that's where we are, and that creates sort of this emotional dysregulation, which becomes a part of the entertainment package that's being sold, right? So you get used to watching a game that you normally 5 years ago you wouldn't care about. You wouldn't care about watching a game between that's not true. You would care about watching a game between the Bengals and Browns if you're a Steelers fan, because it could have, division implications, but you're not going to get upset at the result unless it knocked your team out of the playoffs. But now, if you have a bet on the game, you could have a bet just on a play in the game or a bet on the player in the game. You could get irate about the result of that game. It could bend you out of shape for a day or two. And maybe your favorite team, the Steelers, maybe they won that week, but you're still bent out of shape because you lost $250 sports betting. The dangerous thing is the people who can separate themselves from that, and they lose and they lose and they keep losing, and then they look up and they've lost $20,000 and they've wiped out their savings account, or $200,000 or whatever it is. So there's some key behaviors, and there's a infantilization, tough word to say, that I think is happening with our youth. And I think it's dangerous because this type of behavior from Dave Portnoy, he's a man who doesn't have any children, and he is promoting this type of behavior to young adults, to young people growing up in this world, showing this as normal. And it's not. And it's going to impact relationships with spouses. It's going to impact, and I'm sure is impacting, relationships with children. And this is not a normal way to act. This is not a normal way to regulate your emotions, okay? So a couple key behaviors that are being reflected by this infantilization of sports fans, okay? You have externalization of blame, blaming referees, blaming coaches, blaming players for costing them money. Their actions have cost you money. No, your actions have cost you money, actually. Emotional meltdowns, like we saw with Portnoy, public screaming, crying, threatening players, threatening coaches, saying you want to imprison or murder a head coach, being normalized. Magical thinking that the league is rigged, or this is stolen, or things are that players or that referees are conspiring. And yes, there have been instances of referees being in on the gambling. Of course, there's been instances of players recently in Cleveland. There were two pitchers, one who was on the Pirates previously, Luis Ortiz, who they were getting paid to throw balls. You can bet on every freaking pitch now. And investigation uncovered it, and they're getting prosecuted for it. And they're feeling the implications from Major League Baseball, suspensions and whatnot. Which it's crazy that stuff happens with people getting paid hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars for the best players, of course, tens of millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars for the best players. You have Shohei Ohtani, his interpreter. What was this, 2 years ago? His interpreter, allegedly not Ohtani, was taking Ohtani's money and gambling it. Of course, Ohtani's a generational talent, so there's no way any stink was going to remain on him. Wasn't possible. Even if he was involved at all, which I don't know if he was. There's no way that he was going to take any part of that fall. The interpreter took all of the fall. But it's just amazing. It's just amazing the impact this has had on sports in a mostly negative way. And it creates a victim mentality for people, right? That this team wronged me, this referee wronged me, and you carry that with you throughout life. Oh no, poor me, poor me. There's no accountability. Your own decisions did that to you, man, not other people. It's crazy, crazy. So I want to get into, why gambling triggers childlike behavior, why gambling makes people behave like children, and why this is going to create a generation of grown men who act like toddlers, who act like Dave Portnoys. So it creates a dopamine dependence, all right, on the outcome of an event. It's the exact same neurological loop as a slot machine or a video game, right? You can get addicted to slots. You can get addicted to video games. You can get addicted to your phone. You can get addicted to scrolling through Instagram and looking at reels. The difference is the dopamine dependency of scrolling Instagram or playing video games is you're not directly losing money. You could be losing money from an opportunity cost standpoint, where you could be doing income producing behaviors that could lead to you making money in that time that you're wasting. But sports gambling, slot machines, playing blackjack, sure, you could actually be losing money, and you're tying yourself. That dopamine hit is when you win, and that dopamine hit is being on the edge of your seat. You're in the game. You're feeling it. You're feeling the juice is flowing, that it's on the line. The risk is there. That's the dopamine hit. There's no skill is another piece of it with sports betting. Now, let me back up when I say that. Sure, there's people who dive into the numbers. There's people who pay other people to dive into the numbers for their sports betting. There are degrees of skill with sports betting. So I shouldn't have said no skill. But a lot of gamblers out there don't invest in that skill. And they shouldn't be investing in that skill, because they probably shouldn't be gambling at all. And if you don't understand the ins and the outs of gambling and the data behind it that leads you to making your bets, then you are literally just wishing your money into a win, hoping your money into a win. And if you're doing that, you're going to lose eventually. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And you're going to lose probably bigly, depending on the amount that you bet, if you can't stop. And there's no one else to blame, right? Or I should say, with betting, the real reality perspective is there's no one else to blame but you. But when you're caught up in that emotionally, everyone else is to blame. The other thing is, this bleeds into our instant gratification culture that we have in this country and throughout the world. So modern betting apps, they remove any sort of effort you'd have to action to place a bet. Like in the old days, when I was a youth, when I was 22, 23 years old, you'd have to, if you want to place a sports bet, you'd have to do it either illegally through a bookie, which I would never do, or you'd have to be in Las Vegas or Atlantic City and go to a sports book and place your bets there. Put the effort in, actually get up and move your body and travel there. Now you can sit on your couch, pull out your phone, and place a bet. Instant gratification. Instantly, I've emotionally involved myself in this game. So now, with so many people being raised on screens are your life, and you kind of look for ways to find instant gratification when you're on your phone. That's the phone addiction. You're looking for dopamine. You're searching for it. And if it's scrolling Instagram, arguing on Twitter, getting in fights on Twitter, whatever. Finding your dopamine through a sports betting app, that's just a natural next step if you're at all of a sports fan. The other piece is emotional externalization. Sports betting makes you the center of the universe. That's all. I mean, it's a selfish thing that this team, this referee, this player ruined my Saturday. This coach ruined my weekend. I can't believe that. And you get so upset about it. It's all spun out. It's no accountability. It's selfish. You are not the center of the universe, man. No, you're not. I'm a believer. I'm a believer in God. I'm a believer in Jesus Christ. And the more that I've grown in my relationship with God, the more I've come to understand this world needs less of me and more of Jesus, more of God. I need to reduce myself, to reduce my self-centered attitude, reduce that down, shrink it down as much as humanly possible in this sin-filled world. And when that happens, hopefully people see more God in me. So we're winding this down. Already I'm going much longer than I thought I would. But I'm actually going to cut this off pretty quickly here because I do have other things I have to do today, and I think I've got my point across. I don't want to repeat myself. At the end of the day, this is leading to a mental health crisis in this country. We're already there. It's going to get worse. So many people are already struggling economically. Sports betting is not going to help that. Sure, you'll have your 1% cases, probably less than that, people who make a ton of money, and they're the success stories of sports betting. For most people, this just makes life more difficult. Cultural rot, that's hard to say. Athletic accomplishment, great team performances. You watch those old NFL film shows about these great teams, Steelers in the 70s, the 49ers with Joe Montana. You watch these old teams, these old games, and it's still great to watch them. I'm a Steelers fan, so I like to watch that. But that's going away. Like that sort of tie, that sort of relationship with these teams as a true fan, that's being eroded. We're raising a generation of kids who won't find any value in that. And I think there is value in that. Rage goes viral. Irrational behavior goes viral. Childlike behavior goes viral. Dave Portnoy. Now, Dave Portnoy is not going to apologize for what he did. This is him. He's building his gambling empire. He's just showing how great it is. It hurts. It's painful. It's terrible to be a gambler of a big loss, but I'll be right back in there on Monday night. I'm sure he'll be betting on 10 other games, Monday Night Football, NBA games, hockey, whatever. So it's an infantilization of the citizens of this country is what it is. So my takeaways here. We need adults to take ownership, to regain sovereignty of themselves and of their families and relationship with sports, teach it to their children. We need sports are entertainment at the end of the day, okay? It's not your dopamine fix. It's not ways for you to find your dopamine. Figure out your relationship with your cell phone, your addiction to your cell phone, and work on it. Set some boundaries. If your identity is tied to gambling outcomes, you've lost control of your life, you've lost control of your family, you've lost control of everything. And things most likely are not going to work out for you unless you're already a multimillionaire like Dave Portnoy. Real freedom comes from building things, building businesses, building communities, not betting on sports, not betting on other people who are doing great things. Real things come from sacrifice. Real things come from doing things that you don't want to do. Real freedom comes from doing things that you don't want to do. That's why I've always pushed back on this idea from the Bitcoin crowd. The maximalists, just put everything in Bitcoin, put everything in Bitcoin. What are you building? What are you building? It's not that easy to make money, to build wealth. It's not. Sure, some people have. The early adopters, they've done very well with Bitcoin. But I really don't think that just putting all your money in Bitcoin, going forward, is going to make you a multimillionaire. I just don't see it happening. So now I've shit on gambling, shit on Bitcoin. I've officially pissed off all the libertarians and all the people, all the people who love sports. So, last takeaway: a person addicted to gambling is seriously you're an emotional 12-year-old, and you're teaching that to your children, and you're showing that personality, you're showing that reality to your spouse, to your loved ones. It's not a good place to be. And I didn't plan on doing a show today talking about Dave Portnoy and gambling and what a child he is. But after seeing that video, I noticed that man is not free. He's not free. And you might say, sure, he can go wherever he wants. He can travel wherever he wants. And maybe he's not even addicted to gambling. Maybe it's all a show. I doubt it. I think that was real. I think that was a real, authentic reaction that he had. But he has to, for his brand, that's his brand. A crying grown man, a screaming grown man is his brand. That's his legacy. That's Dave Portnoy's legacy. Screaming like a child into the internet, which is a shame because, like I said, he had some great takes during COVID. He helped out a lot of small businesses. At the end of the day, that's who he is, though. And I'll ask you, if you're someone who loves gambling, I'm not saying you should never gamble. I'm saying you need to understand that you have a responsibility to yourself, if you have a family, to your family, and if you have an audience, you have a responsibility to them. This doesn't get fixed through regulation. Gambling's been around for as long as time. As long as there have been sports, people have been gambling. But we've reached a point where I think it's out of control. And as a country, as a people, especially as men in this country, it's time to look ourselves in the mirror and make some decisions. All right. Okay. So that's really all I had for the show today. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you hated it, sorry. Tune into the next show. I won't be talking about gambling. And so once again, join us on Patreon Locals, join the Pile of Pricks. If you like this show, if you like this channel, please subscribe on YouTube or Rumble or your favorite podcasting app. Leave us a 5-star rating, a nice little review. It helps so much. And I haven't been promoting it, but please, if you like this show, today's show, go leave a review, share it with somebody. I'll be putting some reels out with it too. Of course, you can get all of our content on Twitter, on YouTube. We're even still on Facebook. We need to get back on BitChute. That'll be done soon. So, all right, guys. I'll see y'all next week with another interview. In the meantime, always remember to keep your head up and those fires of liberty burning.